So welcome. Oh, everybody's rushing in now. Welcome, everybody. This is a little presentation that I've put together about perfectionism. I find perfectionism, along with people pleasing and procrastination, are definitely the three most fascinating things that go on in people's brains. Having been a perfectionist, still recovering, still fighting it, particularly when it comes to typos in presentations. Just so as you know, that's like my thing. And I've been a people pleaser. I spent honestly, from about the age of 15 until the age of 39. So 14 to 39, every single relationship I had was built on me being what that person needed me to be. And that was either romantic relationships, which isn't the best way of doing it, having learnt. Work relationships, though, it works really great. Yeah. If you put your whole life and soul into being exactly what your boss wants you to be, that can work. So I'm not saying that perfectionism is a problem. I'm just saying that it's a bit of a challenge when you have it combined with people pleasing. So then, to sort of put a little cherry on the top of my perfectionist cake, iced with people pleasing, the little cherry on the top is the procrastination. The thing that locks up people pleasers and perfectionists and people in general from being the best they can. Because instead of, for instance, putting together a fabulous presentation with a couple of typos in it, yeah, I would seriously hope that my presentation has no typos in it. But of course, it can always be better. So you have to let these things go every now and again. So as I said, I've got a little presentation. So I'm going to share my screen. And start this presentation. Can a couple of you, whoever's got their cameras on, could you give me a little wave or a thumb up to say that you can see it? Yes, brilliant. So, potential problems with perfectionism and how it can actually stop you from growing. This is the thing that fascinates me most. So, as I said at the beginning, some people will tell you that there's nothing wrong with perfectionism. If something's worth doing, it's worth doing well, and all those kind of phrases and sayings. But there are some things that make perfectionists shudder. As I said, for me, it's things like putting a post out or putting a presentation out in front of someone that has a typo in it. I hate them. Yeah. But here are just a few that I thought of, other than that one, because I was going to be talking about it. Being late for a meeting or not properly prepared can really put the wind up a perfectionist. Missing a deadline, which is where that procrastination comes in. Publishing a post on social media with spelling mistakes. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, well, that's me not wanting to be me. Forgetting that you'd invited friends over. This has not happened to me, but when I was talking to another perfectionist in my life, she said that there's nothing worse than people just turning up and her home not being presented the way that she wants it to be presented. Even if it's just a tea towel not hanging straight in the kitchen or a child's toy not being put away in the toy box. And for another perfectionist I spoke to, he was particularly weird about having a dirty car on the drive. Given that this particular guy is a car valeter, right? Having his own car, which is big and black and shows every single speck of dust, sitting on his drive next to his valet van, when it's even slightly bit grubby, just makes his skin crawl. And he comes home from work and he cleans his own car. He told me 3 times a week. Yeah. And that's kind of weird, huh? Yeah. Does anybody agree that cleaning your car 3 times a week is a little bit, just a teeny bit weird? But the textbook definition of a perfectionist is someone who strives for or demands the highest standards of excellence. And before I move on, I just want to sort of dive into that definition, because someone who is striving for is going to put themselves under pressure. But if any of you have ever worked for a perfectionist boss who demands from you the absolute pinnacle of excellence, that can be really, really hard. Yeah. So depending on whether you are the perfectionist yourself or almost like a victim of the perfectionist, it can go either way. So everybody knows, I'm sure everybody on this call knows, that at some level, being a perfectionist can have a downside. And quite frankly, I'm thinking that you all know that, because otherwise you wouldn't be watching this video. If you thought that perfectionism was totally fine, then why would you need to learn about it? And that's kind of what I thought until I started doing coaching training. And words like perfectionist and people pleaser and procrastination, people who sacrifice their entire lives to this standard of excellence, whether it's in art or standards of their own work or how their body looks. Yeah? I knew a whole bunch of women back in the days when I was a tortured beach body coach who had to have the perfect body. And that was what they strived for all the time, to the point where they would almost torture themselves to get somewhere that is unobtainable. So I started digging in to see what perfectionism was all about. And I came across two psychologists, Hewitt and Flett, who have done some research, and they categorize perfectionism into self-orientated, other-orientated, and socially prescribed. I found this quite fascinating when I was reading the research. And if you want to go deeper into it, go onto Google and search multi-dimensional perfectionism scale. There's a whole lot out there. You could be reading for days, but I've just sort of summarized it down into the self-orientated type of perfectionism. These types of people hold themselves as individuals to a very high standard. They're conscientious, they're hardworking, and they tend to progress well in their careers because they're constantly driving themselves forward. The other orientated type are more likely to expect or even inflict these high standards on others. This is what I was talking about with the boss. If you have a boss who is a raving perfectionist, you're never going to get everything good enough for him. It's going to defeat you and crush you unless you learn what it's about and how to communicate with this type of perfectionist. They have difficulty in delegating work, and when they do, they will really expect the best from you. They also have trouble trusting, and this delegating and trusting can also affect a perfectionism or a perfectionist in the home, where you daren't give up a chore to someone else to do because they're not going to do it good enough. You may as well do it yourself. Yeah. I struggled with this, when I was a young mum, and I thought it was time that my kids learnt how to make their own beds. Yeah. So I'd let them do it. Yeah. And then when they went off to school, I would go in there and tuckle their corners in, because I couldn't bear it knowing that there was a badly made bed in that room. But yeah, grew out of that one too. But that's, these things you learn as a parent, that being a perfectionist when you're driving yourself forward is all very well and good. But when you're driving those little people in your life, yeah. I never told them that I tucked in their corners, by the way. I just kind of did it. These kind of perfectionists can also seem over-judgmental and critical. They make working environments very difficult They can make family environments difficult too. And then there's the socially prescribed type of perfectionist who really struggles with managing or being managed, especially when there's pressure to measure up. So this often comes up in sales environments where you're given targets, yeah, and has been linked, and I mean strongly linked, to anxiety, depression, and even suicide. When someone's put under so much pressure to meet a target that is unattainable. Then I discovered Enns and Cox, who make it easier in my brain to get to grips with perfectionism. And they split perfectionists into two groups, the adaptive and the maladaptive. An adaptive perfectionist is great if there's a task that requires a high level of accuracy, like surgery on a human. Yeah. I mean, seriously, there's no better place to put a perfectionist. The maladaptive will put undue pressure on themselves and others to perform. They create that pressure and stress that we saw in the other group. What's it called? The last one, the socially prescribed group from Hewitt and Flett. So I'm going to give an example of a Christmas dinner and how these two groups of perfectionists would handle getting ready for it. So the adaptive perfectionist is going to plan ahead and they're going to create the most amazing party. There's going to be streamers, there's going to be poppers, there's going to be decorated tables, and it's going to be just mwah. And not only that, but they're going to pull it off under budget, if that's a goal. Yeah, they're going to be able to do that. An adaptive perfectionist can achieve great things. However, a maladaptive perfectionist would become consumed by the planning. Yeah. And no matter how much planning they did, they would procrastinate. They would often be late with things. Stress levels are going to go through the ceiling for this kind of perfectionist and for others around them. And even if the event turns out to be a blast, they're still not going to be happy with it. And to bring it back to budget, they are likely to go over budget. Now, Enns and Cox put together this little table here, and I'm going to read a few bits of it, but I've made another slide with this bigger so that you all can have a look at it. Yeah, these are examples of maladaptive and adaptive behaviors. So on the maladaptive side, and let's just pick a few at random: fear of failure, a sense of self-worth, which is dependent on their performance. Procrastination's in there. Failure associated with harsh self-criticism. I've noticed this particular one crop up with young mothers in particular who want to do like the absolute best for their children. And yet the absolute best becomes so crippling for them that they do nothing. So on the adaptive side, just again, going to pick a few at random. By all means, have a look. There's going to be a recording of this posted on the Facebook page. So if you ever want to come back to this slide, I think I might attach it separately. But if that's not possible, just come to this point in the recording and pause it. Yeah. They achieve high standards, but they are also striving for success. And they focus very much on doing things right. Further down this list, a timely completion of tasks, as opposed to the procrastination that we saw on the maladaptive side. And right down the bottom there, they have a desire to excel, reasonable certainty about their actions, whereas the maladaptive holds the belief that one should or must excel rather than having a desire to. They feel pushed, driven. Yeah. So it becomes a bit more obsessive almost. So there's the two contrasting sides of procrastination there. And in all of my reading, I started to make a list of how we would see perfectionists from the outside. They're often well-groomed. They have beautiful, immaculate homes. They appear highly organized. They're very good at their jobs. And they always get things right and want things to be done right. This list goes on and on and on, but imagine something like, or someone like a wedding planner with 15 different folders for all the different parts of the wedding. Yeah. There's an adaptive perfectionist who's worked out how he or she can track every single element of that event and get it right. Perfectionists are, and this is kind of like a fact, yeah, they are less effective than people who don't hold this feeling within themselves, because perfectionists do procrastinate. They delay the start of a difficult task out of fear of the result. Perfectionists can take longer to do something. This is what I was saying earlier about going through my presentations over and over and over and over and over and over again out of fear of there being one teeny weeny little typo, when I could be putting that effort into creating something bigger, longer, something more amazing, more informative. Yeah. Diving into every bit of research. Yeah, you see, that's why I put that in. Oops, that's me. Or redoing the presentation slides, scrapping them and starting again over and over and over again. That's also me. And I call myself a recovering perfectionist because I still do this sometimes. But I also find myself at a point where I think, oh, hang on, just stop it, stop it. And then I make a promise to myself where I say to myself, okay, the slides for that presentation are done. Yeah, I'm not going to look at them again until the presentation. It's kind of a way that I get myself out of that loop. Perfectionists can also avoid promotions, even though an adaptive perfectionist is going to do really well at their job and they're going to progress in their job. A maladaptive perfectionist is likely to avoid promotions because they don't feel they're good enough. And there's another thing that crops up time and time again in my coaching clients. That feeling of not being good enough comes from perfectionism. Perfectionists also avoid social events for fear of not being welcomed or not wearing the right outfit or, having a hair out of place or somebody talking about them behind their back. The fear that perfectionists deal with can be really overwhelming. Perfectionists don't work well with others. Yeah, as leaders, they can be impossible, and as colleagues, they can be really, really competitive. Now, this could work great in a sales environment where you've got a whole bunch of adaptive perfectionists all competing with each other in a sales environment. You're going to get amazing results. Yeah. But if you put on top of that a perfectionist leader who drives them beyond the point where it's enjoyable and exciting, where it becomes oppressive and pushing, that's why there's, more anxiety and depression in salespeople than in a lot of other professions. Perfectionists can also struggle to make decisions. Either they believe that they're completely right and they're not going to budge on it, or, Lord help them, this is me again, there are too many variables to consider. And at this point, I feel called to tell you about a little coaching tool that I use with my clients that made a huge difference to me personally. Yeah. Because within days of me being taught this particular tool, I had to make a really huge decision. The tool is where you take your awareness and you settle into your body, you connect with your body and listen to the signals that your body is giving you to get a simple, straightforward yes and no. So this tool is called the visceral yes and no. It's where you listen to your innards, yeah, that gut feeling. Yeah, go with your gut. And I used that tool to go from a choice of well over 40,000 different types of bathroom tile. Can you believe it? Seriously. My plumber comes to me and says, "What tiles do you want in the bathroom?" And I go, "I don't know." And he says, "Well, okay, look on this website, choose some tiles, let me know, I'll go get them." And if I hadn't have been taught visceral yes and no while I was scrolling through, I wouldn't have been able to, in various stages, knock it down from 40,000 to 15,000 to 8,000 to then a couple of hundred to then with sort of filters and things like that, I managed to sort of shrink it and shrink it and shrink it and shrink it until I had to choose from 15, which was still overwhelming. And this is 4 hours after I was originally challenged by the plumber to come up with a choice for my bathroom tiles. In the end, I got down to 2. I couldn't decide between them on the screen, I had to see them. So he had to go off and get a sample, one of each. And I literally closed my eyes, put my hands on them. One felt kind of, it was a matte tile. It kind of felt soft, almost fabricy under my fingers. And the other one was a gloss tile. And it felt very, very shiny, very, very cold. And I wanted a warm bathroom, so I chose the matte tile, yeah, with my eyes shut. It was phenomenal. It's amazing to me that your body can literally give you clues to what you want and what you don't want. And just think for a moment, if a family member or a dear friend, I'm saying not a partner, yeah, were to walk into your room where you are right now and say, "Do you fancy pizza?" Yeah. There are literally signals in your body that tell you whether or not your body wants pizza, regardless of what's going on in your head. And I teach this to my coaching clients so that they never, ever have to make a decision on their own again, ever. So now we're going to dive into the causes of perfectionism. It's fair to say that there's a little bit of perfectionism in all of us. Adaptive perfectionism can be a positive thing, but neither of those reasons are why you're here. You're here because perfectionism can take over, can trip you up, it can get out of hand. And, you know, in some people this works and in some people it doesn't. So I've put together a few thoughts and ideas based on my own life, those around me, including my clients, on how to overcome this. But before I move on, yes, I've just had a little message from Jacqueline, who's just left, to say that she's looking forward to the rest of it on the replay, which is going to be really cool because she's watched all of like the lead up to, and now we're going to go into my ideas for where it comes from and how to deal with it. So my first idea is that perfectionists get out of hand with this drive through not feeling safe. Consider a fear that at any moment you could be exposed for being less than the perfect human being you are. And you are totally perfect, by the way, the three of you that remain, and Jackie is too, yeah. But perfectionists hold this fear of exposure. This is the fear that drives the maladaptive perfectionists to attempt to control their inner and outer worlds in order to create the safety that they're missing. You follow? Yeah. If a situation doesn't go completely according to plan or they feel out of control, they can be easily angered and can feel really badly let down by other people as well as themselves when things don't go according to plan. I mean, I've been involved in some very strange situations where I thought other people were doing particular tasks, and then it turns out they weren't. Yeah. And you have to pick up all of the pieces all of a sudden, short notice, what the actual beep. Yeah. And that anger in me didn't feel like, oh, stupid bloody people didn't do it. Yeah. It was like a deeper anger of being let down, yeah, by other people. And that feeling is what comes from not feeling safe, because you can't trust someone to do what they're supposed to do. You can't possibly wait until that Friday deadline to see if they do it. You're going to ask them on Monday. You're going to ask them on Tuesday. You're going to start to feel let down on Wednesday. By Thursday afternoon, you're panicking. You do it yourself anyway. And then, what happens? You've got 2 bowls of potato salad at the barbecue because you make one and the other person makes one. And you've just stressed yourself out for a whole week over nothing. Simply because that other person doesn't live up to your standards. Yeah. So where you can, take it back to safety. Why are you not feeling safe? Why can you not trust that other person? Explore it, dive into it. Yeah. I never thought journaling was a thing until I started training as a coach. Sometimes with my coaching clients, at the end of a session, I will ask them to journal about a particular question. And it's not the question that's important. It's the exploration of the answer that's important. Yeah. So if you feel that your perfectionism may be coming from this feeling of not being safe, explore it, because awareness and understanding can help you build a safer platform to stand your life on. Okay, the next one, not feeling good enough. Yeah. Comparing ourselves to others is one of the traps that many of my clients have got caught in. And no matter what quality you are, flipping heck, look, I just tripped over myself because there's a typo. Can you see it? Right in the middle of the page. 2 eyes in front of the T. Take a deep breath, Tanya. Just need to remind myself that the quality of this slide is not dependent on that typo. That's another way of recovering from it. So, not feeling good enough, comparing yourself to others. No matter how you compare, it's not the other person who's toxic, it's the comparison itself. And that not feeling good enough becomes harmful and becomes toxic because of, in my opinion, the industries that are on this planet tapping into that not good enoughness, and by driving us to behave in the way that they want us to behave in order for them to make money, right? For instance, fitness or diet industry, yeah? Diets are not created so that you can lose weight, yeah? Boom. They are created so that you can restrict your food, feel not good enough when the diet does not succeed, so that you go out and buy another one. Yeah. If every diet worked, there would be no industry. The food industry adds sugar to more food than it needs to be in because sugar is addictive. Yeah? People don't have food addictions or even sugar addictions. What happens is that the sugar stimulates your appetite so that you eat more. And the act of eating for comfort in particular is what you become addicted to. Clothing industry. Yeah, I found out something, and because this call is being recorded and is now going onto Facebook afterwards, I'm not actually going to name any of the clothing retailers concerned, just in case. Yeah. But just take, for an example, a department store where you can go in, there's household goods in one section, there's kids' toys in another section, there may be homewares or furniture in another section, and there's a clothing section, right? They are using a method of sizing that was put together in the late 50s. And a size 14, just for a number, has been a size 14 since then, right? A lot of people will say, oh, but women aren't that size anymore. Yeah, but a size is a size is a size. And those department stores tend to stick honestly to those sizes, because then you can go away and you can look up that a size 14 is this bust, this waist, this hip, this height. And then you can figure out which size to take off the rack, because they are designed to sell you clothes just off the rack. Yeah. In these kind of stores, you will find really, really uncomfortable, nasty, manky changing rooms, because they don't want you to try the clothes on in the shop. Yeah, they want you to know what size you're buying, buy the size straight off the rack, job done. But there is something very devious happening in the clothing industry, and that is called vanity sizing. Yeah, there are at least 2 clothing retailers that I've discovered, and I've done this by walking into their shops, yeah, with a tape measure, where a size 14 is bigger than in that department store. Yeah, so that a woman who is honestly a size 14 will go into this particular clothing retailer, go into their luxurious, spacious, beautifully decorated changing rooms, and they'll try on lots and lots of different clothing in lots and lots of different sizes, and they will be so happy that they're a 12 or even a 10, because their sizes are so much bigger than the actual size that size should be. What goes on in a woman's head, apparently, is that they think, oh, I'm a size 12 in that shop, or I'm a size 10 in that shop. I don't want to go into that department store, because in there I'm a 14, but in this retailer I'm a 12. I feel happy. That makes me happy. So those retailers are literally missizing their clothing to get inside a woman's head. How sick is that? And I'm going to be very careful now to move on, because these industry soapboxes are soapboxes that I get on frequently when I'm on people's podcasts, and I can talk for a long time on how the core human need to belong to a tribe, to be accepted, to be valued, is being messed with by these industries. So self-discovery is a way to build your own image in the image you deserve, you literally deserve, because your tribe is global. Yeah, I'm in England. M is also in England. Julie, can you unmute yourself for a second and tell us where you're from?
I live in the US near Chicago.
See, Chicago, USA. Andy, if you're able to, can you unmute yourself for a second and tell us where you're from?
I'm in the US in Ohio.
In Ohio, you see? I mean, seriously, your tribe, and this is like a lovely, I just want you to know this. I want everybody who watches this recording to know this. Your tribe is no longer your family, your country, yeah? The continent that you're on. Your tribe is now global, yeah? And I love Julie, not because of where she comes from, but because of that silly grin. I love it. That smile just lights me up. Every time she grins like that, just lights me up.
Thanks.
Yeah. One of my other clients says that she likes working with me because she never knows what color my hair is going to be when I log on. How cool is that? And I want everybody on this call and everybody who's watching this recording to know that you are good enough. Yeah, you are good enough. And if you struggle with that, There are little techniques, little tricks and tips that I can teach you to change the way you feel about yourself in the moment. But self-discovery and rebuilding yourself in the image that you deserve. Is that me ringing? Oh, I do apologize. Thought my phone was on silent. 1,000 apologies. So, yeah, what I'm saying is the way you build yourself into the image that you deserve doesn't have to depend on any one of these industries. And I'm only naming 3 here. Anyway, must get off this soapbox. Next slide. Seeking praise and attention can create perfectionism, especially maladaptive perfectionism. And this starts with any kind of grading system in our schools. Yeah? The seemingly innocent report card is the start of comparison. How many of you, raise your hands, right, got rewards if you came home with a really good report card? You know, ice cream, day out? No? I just want to congratulate your parents. Because if they didn't make a big scene, right, over getting an A on your report card or winning a trophy or whatever it was you got, then fabulous, because they're learning or they're teaching you how to value yourself without being graded. So hurrah to your parents. This need, though, can become, the need to win can become a drive to then get the perfect home, the perfect job, the perfect car as you grow up. Many perfectionists do not enjoy the journey to adulthood or even the destination when they get there, because there's always another goal, another tick, another A that they can get. And at this point, I want everybody watching this recording and everybody on this call to know that you are all accepted in this group, yeah, for what you are, who you are, how you are. Yeah, I don't care what color your skin is, what color your hair is, where you come from in the world. I could go on. Yeah, you're all welcome in this group. The things that are not welcome in this group are things like hate, any kind of hate, any kind of hate. I will not tolerate it. And that's why everybody is, individually asked to ask a few questions and agree to the group rules before you come in. Yeah. Because it highlights to you guys that this is a group of humans, not objects. We're not objects. We're not comparisons. We're not things to compare each other with. Because you are all accepted in this group, just as you are. Fear of making a mistake. I mean, this is kind of like repeating the fear concept from early on, but in particular, the fear of making mistakes is, I know what, before I go into this slide, right, before I just stop looking at it, right, when a child, a little baby, takes their first step, everybody around them is cheering them on. Yeah, you're holding, you're smiling. People video it. People take the photographs of the first steps. And if you fall over, yeah, nobody goes, oh, you stupid, stupid failure child. You can't even walk. Yeah, doesn't happen with babies. But for some reason, as soon as we become children, as soon as we become young adults, this fear of making a mistake comes in from other people's negativity. And again, wanting to connect with the tribe, to be part of the tribe. Yeah. We then grow into a state of fear around these mistakes. Mistakes themselves are not actually a problem. Falling over when you're learning to walk, yeah. Wobbling on your bike when you're learning to ride a bike, yeah, that's not a problem, because the wobble teaches you. But it's the negative consequences from other people in this, perceived tribe. So the fear of the outcome becomes out of balance with the mistake. Yeah? So the mistake is a tiny little mistake, but the consequences become huge. This kind of out of step situation can come when you are a child of a perfectionist. And luckily, those two faces that I can see at the moment, Andy and Em, you were not Andy and Em, what we're talking about, Julie and Em, you were not brought up by perfectionist parents. Otherwise, they would have made a big scene over an A card. But the fear can prevent a perfectionist from trying new things or difficult things in case they mess up. But I really want you to know that mistakes are proof that you are trying. Would a child fall over if they were not trying to walk? Yeah. Would a child fall off a bicycle if they weren't trying to ride it? Yeah. If you're trying in a relationship and you make a mistake, you're trying. That mistake is proof that you're trying, proof that you're learning, and proof that you are growing. And if your partner can't see a mistake as proof that you're trying, teach them. Remind them about that baby falling over when they're trying to walk. Okay, the next one is hidden shame. And I'm not talking about like embarrassment kind of shame. I'm talking about the deep, hidden, subconscious shame that accumulates over years and years and years and multiple experiences. This kind of shame is often referred to as hidden trauma. And it's called hidden trauma because there is no one thing that made it happen. It's loads and loads and loads and loads of little things. Because trauma is the result of either one incident or multiple instances. And when your shame, when your hidden trauma has come from years and years and years of multitudes and loads and loads and loads and loads of things that build this shame, you can't put your finger on it and say, right, that caused it. And deep within you has grown this belief that no matter how hard you try or what you achieve, you will never be good enough. Yeah. But the brain has this amazing ability. Not only can it learn that no matter how hard you try or whatever you achieve, you'll never be good enough, it can also learn that you are good enough and mistakes are proof that you are trying. This concept is known as neuroplasticity. In short, it means that any limiting belief can be unpacked and your brain can be rewired. This is not something that I can achieve with even one of you in a focused sort of 10-minute live coaching thing, right? This takes time. The amount of time it takes to build this kind of shame gives you an idea of how long it might take to unpack it. Yeah. There's no instant fixes for this one. But there are little things that you can do for yourself. One of the things I've done for myself is I wear on my thumb here a little ring which says, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it in focus. This is always so difficult. Anyway, it says, I am enough. And I wear it on my thumb so that when I'm typing, when I look down at my hands, I see it. And it reminds me all the day that I'm working, when I'm typing up notes of a coaching session, when I'm preparing a breathwork session, it reminds me that I am good enough. And reminds me of all the work that I've done to unpack all of my limiting beliefs, all of those beliefs that, you know, override you, even the most logical mind that makes you think that it doesn't matter what you do, you're never going to be good enough. Well, you are good enough. Not only are you good enough now, but you're good enough and strong enough and powerful enough to unpack all of your limiting beliefs and rewire your own brain. Yeah. Look up neuroplasticity when you've got a minute. Don't ask me to spell it. I'm dyslexic. So my top tips on how to avoid getting caught up in unrealistic, unobtainable perfectionism so that you can enjoy the process of growth. Yes, these are 3 top tips. Yes, they're the number one things that I pick out, but they're not instant. Yeah. If you are after an instant, quick fix, I'm not the coach for you. Sorry, but I'm not. Hello, young person. So my tips are: discover and explore your limiting beliefs and the parts of you that have been created as coping mechanisms that keep you stuck. These include maladaptive perfectionism. Yeah. But these mechanisms can be anything from comfort eating, binge eating, being in a constant state of high alert, suffering from anxiety, overwhelming panic attacks, depression. All of these things have been created in your psyche to help you cope. Yeah. With a coach, with a trauma-informed coach like me, you can unpack those things. You can explore them, discover them, unpack them, rewire them, put it all back together again. But plan how you want to spend your time and stick to it. I put that in as a high-level top tip because as a perfectionist or a people pleaser, a procrastinator, or a combination of the above, yeah, your time becomes dragged away from you. Yeah. There are things that you can't control, like when you've got to show up for your job, when you're told to go for a lunch break. But trust me, what you do in your lunch break, yeah, how you choose to spend your time. Do you shove a sandwich down your neck in front of the computer, or do you take that sandwich and go outside, even if you're standing outside on the fire escape, fresh air, sunshine? Yeah. Make a plan. Choose how you want your life to look. Make a promise to yourself and then stick to it. And finally, evaluate the standards to check the effect on your overall well-being and happiness. So if someone or yourself set a standard and meeting that standard makes you unhappy or stressed, yeah, bin it. Seriously, bin it. Take control and bin it. Because if a standard that you set on yourself, for instance, like me and my doing a presentation without typos in it, if that standard prevents me from ever talking to you guys live, then that standard is interfering with my overall well-being and happiness, because my mission is to support you. My mission is to help you learn what I've learned. But instead of, taking, literally took me 43 years of my life to learn how to love myself and accept myself, right? I can teach you that in between 6 and 13 weeks. In one-to-one coaching environment, we can take down any kind of standard, any kind of mechanism, any kind of coping strategy that you've come up to try and keep you safe. Yeah? If those things are now proving toxic to your overall well-being, yeah, then let's look at them, examine them, figure out what's really going on. A few more top tips here. Fully allow your inner perfectionist to flourish when it's appropriate. Yeah. So if you are, let me think, decorating a cake. Yes, make it perfect. Make it perfect. Why not? My next tip is to learn to say no, because no is a complete sentence. If someone asks you to do something and they set a load of standards and it's impossible and you don't want to do it, say no. Yeah. You don't have to explain, because saying no is enough. And if it's not enough, it should be enough. And be okay with who you are right now, in this moment, knowing that the mistakes you make prove that you are growing. And have fun. Be silly and play with children. Yeah. Whenever I have to go to an event or a wedding or something like that, that I really kind of don't want to be at, I seek out the children, spend time with the kids, or better still, the dog. Yeah. Find the family dog, because you know what, dogs and children, there's a few things dogs and children never do, right? They never judge you. They might think you're a bit odd, but you know, go with it. Be odd, have fun, be silly. And finally, take the time every now and again to look back and see how far you've come. And if you struggle with that, know that at some point you were a child who couldn't walk. And now look at you. Yeah. You were a child who couldn't speak. Now look at you. There is one person on this call who has achieved a really amazing thing that I am totally in awe of. She organized a what do you call them? Like a big ass event with like 200 people all coming together. Yes, Julie, I'm talking about you. This was like, I can't remember the right word for it, but anyway, it was a big event. Everybody got together. There was accommodation, there was food, there was chairs, tables, halls, event things, and stuff and more flipping. So I couldn't do that. I struggle organizing family reunions. I've got to the point with my technique of organizing a family reunion is, okay, I pick the best date for guess who? Me. I pick the best date for me. I pick the best location for me. Yeah. I then provide everybody who's coming with a list of hotels and let them do it. Because if they're going to trust me to put me at the beginning of this and in the middle of this and at the end of this, then it's going to be at a location that suits me on a date that suits me. So I look back and think to myself, you know, I couldn't organize shit because everybody would overwhelm me with, oh, but I can't do that date. Well, I can only do that date if it's in the morning. I can do the following weekend. Oh, if you move this event, you know, by 3 months, then I can do the hall and the chairs. And no, I don't go there anymore. Because for me personally, as a recovering perfectionist, it is overwhelming. Conference, that's the word. Julie organized a conference for 200 people. Holy shit. One of my other clients gave up her entire life to move in with her elderly mother because the carers that they were paying for couldn't work with her dementia. She gave up her whole freaking life. Now that I could do. I could give up my whole life for my mum. So, questions. Being as there's only 3 of you here, if any of you have got any questions, just unmute yourself and go ahead. But before you do, if you'd rather do it in the comments after this event video has been posted, do that. If you're watching this in a place other than Facebook, you can DM me on Facebook using that link. I am also accessible on Instagram using that username. So that's at Swarbrick Tanya on Instagram. And the link for messaging, if you're on Facebook, just find me, send me a message. Yeah. So, oops, let's go back. Before we do that, anybody got any questions? Any questions at all? Even if it's got nothing to do with this presentation, I dare you ask a question. One of you, go on. Go on. Ask me a question. Ask me a question. You're not going to now, are you? What about if I double dare you? Come on, ask me a question. No, dogs come in now. Okay, so the 3 Ps are great goals for perfectionists. They are purpose, priorities, and peace. And I am currently experimenting with a program that at the moment is essentially designed for people pleasers. But the more work I do on the content for that program, the more I realize that it is also going to be really helpful for perfectionists, especially if they get overwhelmed with the demands of others, because it's a similar kind of thing. Yeah. So if as a perfectionist, you are seeking clear purpose, the ability to prioritize your life and get a bit of peace, then for the first 5 people, and a couple of spots have already gone, there is 85% off for these first 5 people. It's going to be different for these first 5 people because they're going to get a group program taught to them one-on-one. They're going to get the 9 modules delivered to them in the order that they need them. This is going to be, depending on how much I put into it, in terms of bonuses and access and all that kind of stuff, it's going to be between $4,000 and $5,000 as a group program. But all I'm asking is a contribution of anything exceeding $599, which I think is about 460 UK-ish. Somebody's just joined. Do you reckon that's because of the time difference thing? Shall I press the button? I'll admit them.
Probably. It's probably from the 2
Yeah,
different times.
from that other thing. Never mind. I'll start from the beginning and go through it again. So we're at the end of this. Jenna, don't worry. You haven't missed it. There was some muddle up with the time. So what I did is I started it an hour ago. I've gone through the presentation once, and for those who want to watch it again, no, you don't want to watch it again, do you? Stay on. But if you stay on, Jenna, I will just start from the beginning and go through the presentation again from the beginning. So I'm going to stop this share. Okay, last chance for questions for the first group then. Hit me up. In that case, hit me up in whatever way suits you. So I'm going to